February 24th, 1955, a time when gasoline was only 23 cents. Computer technology was just beginning to advance. It was also the time when a great man known as Steve Jobs was born. Steve Jobs, along with Steve Wozniak and Ronald Wayne, would soon create one of the most innovative and unique technology companies ever made. From 1955 to 2011, Steve and Paul Jobs exemplified leadership throughout his technical career. Steve Jobs' legacy is remembered with the creation of the Apple II, the revolutionary Apple iPhone, and advancing PC technology with the creation of the Macintosh software. Steve Jobs was adopted by Clara and Paul Jobs, who lived in Mountain View, California, which is today known as Silicon Valley. As a young boy, Steve was very interested in his father's mechanic work, and they would often work on electronics in the family garage. Ever since Steve was a young boy, he had a little spark, though he was not motivated at all. However, at the start of his 5th grade year, he was given the option to skip a grade, and he went straight to middle school. Steve Jobs attended high school in Cupertino, California at Homestead. He there met someone named Bill Fernandez, and they immediately became friends. They both shared an interest in technology, and one day Bill Fernandez introduced Steve Jobs to his friend named Steve Wozniak, who was nicknamed Woz for his knowledge with computers. In 1969, Steve Wozniak and Bill Fernandez had built a computer board called the Cream Soda computer. Steve was very interested in this computer, and it inspired him to work closely with technology. When Steve Jobs met Steve Wozniak, he immediately started to like him, and they started working closely on their technology experiments and ideas. Their work would soon become a business that would soon inspire the world. Steve Jobs graduated in 1972 from Homestead High School. Later that year, he attended Reed College in Portland, Oregon. Now, Reed was an expensive college. As a result, Steve's parents, Paul and Clara, were forced to spend lots of their life savings on Steve's tuition. However, after one semester at school, he dropped out, due to the fact that he saw no value in it. Now, when he dropped out, he still stayed in and dropped in for about another 18 months every once in a while. In 1975, Steve Jobs began to go to the Homebrew Computer Club meetings with Wozniak. The Homebrew Computer Club was a place for computer hobbyists to meet up alike and share the computer technology experiments and ideas and failures and discoveries. By 1976, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak had formed their own company called Apple Computer Company. At first, the company started off by selling just computer boards. The company started to grow at a rapid pace, so they started selling their first computer in the same year of 1976, called the Apple I, which was single-handedly made and developed by Steve Wozniak. But before they sold it, Jobs had the idea of taking this product to the Homebrew Computer Club in July of 1926 to see what they thought. Not much attention was paid to the presentation of this product, though it was sold at the price of $666.66. It was chosen to sell at that price because Wozniak liked the repetition of numbers. A lot of models of this computer were made, but only 25 of them were sold in the first 9 to 10 months. A year later, their main computer was created, the Apple II.
When Apple started, Steve Wozniak created the Apple II, which was the first easy-to-use personal computer for the home. But it was very sort of hacker-like. It had lots of slots, and you had to get your own monitor and fix it. And Steve Jobs said, we want to make this for everybody, not just for the hobbyists. We want to make it like an appliance, that you could just pull it out of the box and make it work.
Compared to other computers in 1977, the Apple II was highly advanced and a revolutionary product which showed Apple held a future. By this time, they had their own logo, which was designed by Rob Janoff. Their logo depicted a rainbow-patterned apple, which is different than what we know today. There were later revisions done to the logo in August 26, 1999. In the year 1985, Apple's board of directors gave John Sully, the CEO at the time, to remove Steve Jobs from all roles except chairman. Sully and Apple's board of directors relieved Steve Jobs from all managerial duties as the head of the Macintosh division. Steve Jobs was still the head chairman, but once he was fired from his other duties, he stopped showing up to work and eventually quit.
I still loved what I did. The turn of events at Apple had not changed that one bit. I'd been rejected, but I was still in love. And so I decided to start over. I didn't see it then, but it turned out that getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again, less sure about everything. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. During the next 5 years, I started a company named Next, another company named Pixar, and fell in love with an amazing woman who would become my wife. Pixar went on to create the world's first computer animated feature film, Toy Story, and is now the most successful animation studio in the world. In a remarkable turn of events, Apple bought Next, and I returned to Apple, and the technology we developed at Next is at the heart of Apple's current renaissance. And Lorene and I have a wonderful family.
Steve Jobs' creative success was not only limited to just Apple. After getting fired from Apple, Steve founded a new company similar to Apple called Next in the year of 1985. The company's first computer was developed in 1988 with relatively little sales, around 50,000 units. The company Next also created WebObjects, which was one of the first web application frameworks. However, WebObjects never became too popular because of its highly marked price of $50,000. Many years later, in 1996, the company of Next was bought by Apple for $429 million and 1.5 million shares of Apple stock. Along with creating the company Next, Steve Jobs worked with Pixar, today a multi-billion-dollar company. Jobs bought the graphics group, later named Pixar, from Lucasfilm's computer graphics division in 1986 for the price of $10 million. Disney and Pixar had a partnership together for the first to-be-produced film, Toy Story, in 1995. Jobs was credited as the executive producer in the film when the movie was released, and it was a huge success. Later on in 2003 and 2004, as Pixar's contract with Disney was running out, Steve Jobs and chief executive Michael Eisner tried to negotiate new partnership deals, but in the end, they couldn't agree, and it failed. Luckily, in the month of October 2005, Bob Iger replaced Eisner at Disney. Iger and the new CEO tried to work out relationships between Steve Jobs and Pixar. On January 24, 2006, Bob Iger came to terms with Jobs and agreed that Disney would purchase Pixar in an all-stock transaction worth $7.4 billion. With the merger of Disney and Pixar completed, Steve Jobs focused on Apple again. With the purchase of Next, much of the company's technology found its way into many of the Apple products. The creation of iPod, a portable music player, and iTunes Music Store was a huge advancement by putting music in the palm of your hand. Also, on June 29, 2007, Steve Jobs presented the revolutionary Apple iPhone.
Well, what we're going to do is get rid of all these buttons and just make a giant screen. A giant screen. Now, how are we going to communicate this? We don't want to carry around a mouse, right? So what are we going to do? Oh, a stylus, right? We're going to use a stylus. No. No. Who wants a stylus? You have to get them and put them away and you lose them. Yuck. Nobody wants a stylus. So let's not use a stylus. We're going to use the best pointing device in the world. We're going to use a pointing device that we're all born with. We're born with 10 of them. We're going to use our fingers.
All the Apple products you see before you were created by the great Steve Jobs. All these Apple products hold an impact on our daily lives. Steve Jobs will always be remembered by the way he put technology in everyone's hands. Steve Jobs died on October 5th, 2011, at the age of 56, a life cut short by cancer in his creative prime. His death was not a surprise, yet its impact reverberated around the whole world. He created one of the most successful tech companies in the whole world, and persuaded people not only to buy electronics, but also to love them.